a frat guy, just a truly obnoxious, self-absorbed individual, and that's what the Blues Brothers are. So, um, it's and it's not so much celebrating it, but yet it's fully on display at the same time. So it is just in this really weird amorphous place where everybody can identify with this, but at the time they didn't really identify with it. So they were both an anomaly and a known fixture at the same time, if that's possible. It's almost
It,
like Schrodinger's club lizard.
yeah, it's not celebrating it. It's not celebrating that behavior, right? It's clearly mocking that behavior, but it's condoning that behavior. Like they only get treated by women like the losers that they are, but there's no other man ever comes up and says, "Stop grinding on my girl," and just punches them down. There's no consequence other than they get called a name. It's just looking at it now based on. I mean, it is a 20-year-old movie, right? I mean, it came out in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, oh my gosh, it's 24 years old. That's a 24-year-old movie. That's nuts.
Yeah, and the problem is this didn't age well 6 months after it came out. So that's what we're dealing
Yeah,
with.
I think 6 months is being generous.
Yeah. By the time this came out on DVD, people were like, "Yeah, no." Mm-mm. So here's our backstory, as we like to do on this program: is choose a title based on relevance. And so, what's taken place this week, this weekend, is Saturday Night Live is kicking off its 50th season. That's 50.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. And the fact that Lorne Michaels has been at the helm of this the entire time is even more ridiculous. And yet there he is.
I mean, you got to
So,
figure I turned 50 this year, so SNL's technically celebrating my life.
jeez, Paul was conceived at the premiere of the show.
Gosh.
There's probably more information there than needed. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry I brought it up myself. So here we are. But and also in tribute to this, there's actually a feature motion picture coming out about Saturday Night Live.
That honestly looks pretty good.
Does it? Because I've heard some bad things about it. I mean, not like
I didn't say I've
horrible.
watched it. I said it looks pretty good, but that's what
Okay.
trailers are supposed to do.
Yeah. No, I just saw some criticism, and they're like, you kind of missed it, guys. There's more you should have done," that kind of thing. Not like it's a horrible bomb, just like, nah, pass, miss. So, in honor of that, we figured we would have something reflective of this anniversary, because one thing Saturday Night Live has delivered, in contrast of decades of satire and comedy and actual general entertainment, is a slew of really horrendous movies.
I mean, to the point where they're, they were fixtures in the 90s. Most of them are from
Yes.
the 90s. I think there's only what two good movies,
Yeah,
maybe three.
I blame this on Wayne's World entirely.
That's the first one. Did well enough that it was the second film. You know, the second film wasn't as good, but it still did produce a sequel. I think it's the only group of SNL sketches to produce a sequel film. And MacGruber. That
Did you
one was
like
pretty
that?
good.
Because I wasn't a huge fan of that one, but I wasn't a huge fan of the sketch either. So,
Yeah, but it at least did well financially, and it was
okay.
generally well
Yeah,
received.
it's not hated. It's not reviled is the word I'm trying to come up. But here's the thing: is now
And Kevin Hicks.
technically, the Blues Brothers was the first SNL movie, although that was not directly attached to the show. That
Okay,
was
so maybe there's four films: Blues
because what
Brothers,
what
Earl.
happened there was they had one weekend where they had cut some sketches, and then all of a sudden they realized they didn't have enough to fill the time slot. And so Aykroyd and Belushi, from Chicago like they were, said, all right, we'll just go out there and we'll ham it up as the Blues Brothers and just close the show with a musical thing. And they're like, all right, yeah, go do it. And it hit a nerve that night. And studio was like, we should make a movie about these guys for some damn reason. And it was a massive hit. It was hilarious. It's a comedy classic. So decades go by. I think that came out maybe 1980. And Wayne's World was kind of a recurring popular skit on SNL. Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, they hit it out of the park. Let's give them a movie. And the movie was huge, massive hit. And so Lorne Michaels said, we should do this for every single recurring skit we have. And boy,
he didn't stop. It was almost like that series of Not Another Teen Movie had one, or Not Another Scary Movie had one successful outing, and they just started doing everything they could think of to make not another teen movie, not another romantic movie, not another action film, not another. It's just they overdid it, oversaturated the market, and watered down their own IP. That's essentially what they did. I mean, I wanted to talk about The Ladies' Man with Tim Meadows, which is a funny sketch when taken little bits at a time, but a terrible movie.
Stewart, right, and there's Stewart Saves His Family. There's Superstar.
Pat. It's Pat, which is a great sketch, but a terrible movie.
Well, what's really funny about that movie, the only thing, that's one that didn't come from Lorne Michaels' production crew.
Really?
That was independently produced, of all things, if you can believe that. But the problem is this. On Saturday Night Live, you have anywhere from a 3-minute to a 6-minute sketch. And you have to, you've got a compressed time frame, and you have to nail things in a particular fashion in order to reach a vibe of some sort. And so the way it works is, like in the writer's room, you got the entire cast and maybe a dozen or so other writers, and you're all just throwing ideas like spaghetti at the wall. If you get enough of a laugh from the room, it's like, all right, let's see, try to develop that. As well as the cast members will come in and introduce a character that they've invented. Mike Myers was just renowned for this. Like, he would just show up one day in character for something, and they're like, holy crap, what? Like Austin Powers, he came up with that in the bathtub with his wife. He tells that story.
Oh, really? I haven't heard that.
They were taking a bath together, and he just started to play like a randy British guy. And he's doing it to kind of tease her and turn her on, and she's like, holy crap, this is a new character for you, isn't it? He's like, well, I guess it is. Yes, Paul. Ooh.
Made 3 movies on it.
And there you go. So that took off. And
I mean, truthfully, the SNL actors themselves have, for the most part, really blown up and created their own environment where, their own success outside of SNL. Obviously like Chevy Chase, Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd. I mean, there's just, Bill Murray. I mean, there's
Adam
just
Sandberg. I mean, a lot of them have,
Adam
go
Sandler.
on and build up into something else. The thing is, a lot of the times when they come to SNL, they're already established in one form or another. A lot of them come from improv troupes, most notably Second City in Chicago. They also sometimes pluck a few from the Groundlings out there in Los Angeles, or Upright Citizens Brigade, I think, is one in New York. Sometimes they'll get 1 or 2 from there, but that's generally, these are people who already have a performance background or stand-up comedy, and then they've developed some acting chops somewhere. And then they come to SNL, they hone the writing craft. It's a very intensive atmosphere. When they're working, it's like 14, 16-hour days sometimes. I mean, they just, it's always on. So when they get a chance to go to Hollywood and shoot for 3 months, 4 months, it's almost like a break for them. It's not that intensive pressure cooker. It's not, wake up at 8 o'clock and you're working until 10 p.m. that kind of stuff. So you can see the allure for the actors, and it could be a paving way. But the problem is this: you're still talking about source material that's 3 to 6 minutes long, and you're going to stretch that into a 90-minute movie.
It's almost like trying to make a movie off of a fighter's video game, like a first-person fighter video game. You're just 2 people standing in a ring throwing punches and kicks and fireballs at each other. Let's turn that into a franchise, and it just almost never works.
So we already have a challenge. with the adaptation of very, very limited source material. For this movie, it's about two jackasses who never even speak in these segments on Saturday Night Live. So now what do you do? How do you get a damn movie out of this? And they barely did. I think it came in at, this one clocked in at like what, like an hour and 20 minutes, I think I want to say.
It's pretty short. Thank goodness gracious.
So if you're unfamiliar with the segment we're talking about, every time it came on Saturday Night Live, the audience is clapping coming out of commercial or such, and you hear the dance theme, "What is love?"
Baby, don't hurt me.
Like a dance floor will part, and you'll see two guys with their back to the camera at a bar, and they're both nodding their head to one side in rhythm together, and then they turn and they're wearing like shark skin suits, and the entire skit was basically them trying to pick up women. It's like, hey, you want to dance? Want to go? No, okay, and that's, for whatever reason, it was amusing in itself.
It's chaotic. It's chaotic comedy. There's very little.
It's very physical. They, a woman will come up and then they'll get on either side of her and start gyrating and dancing wildly while she pinballs between them in violent fashion almost. And it's, it's very slapstick. It's very broad. There's not much to it, but it's 11:30, 12 o'clock on a Saturday. You're high, hammered, or drunk. This is amusing as hell to watch. You're giggling on the sofa for 2 or 3 minutes. Oh, look at these guys. They're really assholes. Oh, man, they're funny. Look at how screwed up they are. They don't even know how stupid they are. Funny. Click, go to commercial.
Pretty much.
You need 90 minutes of this. I'm sorry, but it is literally a single joke that you have to play out for the eternity. So you have to develop characters. You have to give them a plot. You have to give them a reason for being what they are. Very, very tough. So the movie opens basically with that skit. We see them in a club. We see them acting the way they are. They have this weird thing, too, where they wave their hand wildly in front of their noses briefly.
Yeah, and that's supposed to be a joke that they're doing cocaine all the time at the club.
Yeah, that's the gesture, but they never do cocaine.
Like ever.
And they do this at random times. They'll be at the bar and talking, and all of a sudden they'll just wave their hand in front of their face like this, or they're walking down the street, or they're in the car talking, and they'll do that.
You got to figure, okay, so it's, this is set in New York. The sketch is set in New York. For whatever stupid reason, they set the movie in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. So you got to figure in New York, this has something to do with Studio 54.
Right.
Like at some point, somebody who wrote or created these characters was at Studio 54 in the 70s and the 80s and saw this type of behavior and decided it would be funny to mock it. And
I'm pretty sure
it's terrible as a film.
I'm pretty sure what probably happened was there was probably a club in Manhattan somewhere that a couple of cast members would go to, and they would probably even get a VIP booth or something like that and look at the crowd. And then one would elbow the others, like, look at these two douchebags at the bar, and watching them do their thing. It's like, oh, man, that would totally make a skit. We should do that. We should totally do that, dude. So I'm pretty certain the genesis of this happened probably over like champagne cocktails or Jaeger bombs at 1 a.m. And then they've somehow developed this into something successful in the SNL universe. But yeah, movie-wise, woof. So we see them start out in a rather Tony nightclub, and they're doing all their rendition of things, and they're going up to women, hey, what's up, hey, what's up, and they do their dance thing, and then they get kicked out on their ass on the sidewalk, and they go to other bars, including a biker bar, and already our movie is going downhill. We're about 5 minutes in. Because already you don't have any content at this point. It's just a simple fact. And so there's a lot of riffing, there's ad-libbing, and the problem is a lot of the ad-libbing is physical humor. So it's not like they're bouncing off each other. It's just Chris Kattan acting like a wild chimpanzee for some reason at times, for no discernible reason at times.
Yeah, and so I dug into they're called the Roxbury Guys. This is the name of the name of the group, or the name of the sketch. It's called the Roxbury Guys. And I guess during an interview, Kattan said that him and Will were at a bar in Santa Monica when they were members of the Groundlings. You brought that up earlier, and they saw this guy at the bar, and he was kind of lightly bopping to the music. So not to the degree that we exaggerated, he said, but he was definitely looking for somebody to dance with. It wasn't very specific, and he kind of had that desperate, anybody, please look at me, please dance with me, but he wasn't actually asking anyone to dance. He's like, it's more like, would you notice me? So I guess they riffed on that is what they did. So they saw somebody.
So that's pretty much like I estimated. They just spotted somebody and said, hey, you know what'd be funny? But there's the problem right there. You've got no foundation to build on. And then basically you've got a guy in a slick shark skin, shiny suit, one necklace, bad hair, and bopping their head to the music. And that's the extent of it.
Would have been better if they had used these as characters in the movie and not characters for the movie. Like if these were if you set the tone of the film around a different environment, a different set of characters unrelated to the sketch, and they were the focus, and then these two guys were the extended cameo scenes throughout most of the film. They showed up at every bar or club. Let's say it was Molly Shannon trying to start up the club instead of Chris Kattan's character, and these guys were just always at every club opening in every club area, and they're always there, right? So now you get them in small extended cameo scenes, and they're more digestible, and you're not required to know more about them. I don't need to know that their dad sells fake flowers. I don't need to know that Lonnie Anderson is the hot mom that they weirdly hit on in the morning times. I don't need to know about Molly Shannon's nice bulbs joke more than once. Right? You create better characters that make sense for a film than put these characters in there to support them. So now I'm digesting them at the same level I was digesting them as a viewer of SNL. They're way easier to follow. You don't have to create a ridiculous backstory. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It would be like they could be recurring background characters. They would be what ushers you into the next scene, to the next act, and then you pan off of them and get into the heart of something.
Right. Now you can give them actual jokes that you can punch and land. You could set jokes up at the beginning and then bring it home, in the third act. We've always seen them. It's almost like use them like the dog in Funny Farm.
I was going to say the character of Scrat the squirrel in Ice Age.
Yeah, same kind of premise. Create a cool character that everybody recognizes and can see, but doesn't have to devote their time and effort to following for this story. And now I think you've got a movie that you can actually do. I think that's SNL's most of SNL's problem is that Lorne Michaels wants the skit characters to be the focus of everything, and the majority of the time they need to be the background.
Yeah, not everybody can catch lightning in a bottle like Mike Myers. So
no.
If you don't even have a foundation, you don't have a movie. And man, we don't have one. So literally 5 minutes in, you could see them straining. They're in this biker bar, and you hear the two brothers telling an anecdote together. Chris Kattan is very animated. Will Ferrell plays not quite a stoner, but just a slow individual. So yeah, we went to the club last night, and that's pretty much his entire patter in this film.
They give him a surfer vibe without ever being a surfer.
I suppose it's it. I think that's what he's going for. But how do you be a surfer while wearing a 3-piece silk suit? It's just There's a
I guess
conflict already.
well, you know that sketch that they do where it's set in Malibu, and they're like, oh yeah, and everybody's got like accents and what's it, the Sunset Strip? You know what I'm talking about?
Um,
It's supposed to be set like a
you're not talking about
90210 feel.
you're not talking about Jamie Kennedy.
No, that's Malibu's Most Wanted. That's an no Malibu skit. Yeah. Oh, every Californians ever. It's called the Californians. It's Kristen Wiig and uh, a few other people that are on it, and that's how they talk.
Not
Like, I
familiar.
can't believe this is happening to me. I think they created Will Ferrell's idea off of the Californians, but prior to the Californians even existing, because that's 2000s.
He
But I
was
think that's
their
what he's supposed to
muse.
be.
I suppose it just it doesn't really work. You have no affection or attachment to these guys. So they're in this biker bar and they're telling this story about how we're at a place and there's a guy with his back to us on the telephone with a hat and he turns around and tips his hat. And who is it?
Emilio
Emilio
Estevez.
Estevez. Yeah, it's just not a
This
good
mo-
story. Not a
this
funny
movie was
story.
this movie was very attached to uh, mid '90s mid '90s characters. Like, I mean, Richard Grieco is in it as himself, and he has gained a lot of weight in this film because of 90210, or not 90210, for 21 Jump Street. And they keep talking about Emilio Estevez from Mighty Ducks, right? Like, it's really odd that that's what they've attached to this film for these characters when there's so much else they could have attached to that. Like, why
Well,
specifically hone in on both of these guys?
well, I think what they were going for was, like mid-tier or lower star power from the time for punchline purposes. Like if these two guys ever idolized somebody, it would have to be Richard Grieco, wouldn't it? Like, I suppose.
Yeah, but I mean, Richard Grieco, he had Booker. Remember, he had it's a spinoff show.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, he was like hot at the time. So I
Emilio
guess it's
Estevez
played
had
for
a
laughs.
long string of popular films in the '90s. It's just that's why it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's supposed to be, I guess, reflective of who these two look up to, maybe. And that's played for laughs, sort of. But here's the thing, this Emilio Estevez anecdote, maybe there's a little humor nestled in there if you play it right. If you're on board with it, fine. Okay. I'll give you that. After retelling this 8 times, however, guess what happens?
It
It
becomes
goes from being moderately mirthful to not so much to not at all to damned annoying to please shut the hell up.
yeah, like you couldn't have a different story, or maybe they tell the same story a different way. It's literally the repeating of the same line. Oh my! When they stand in line trying to get into the Roxbury for the opening scene, and they tell them that story to everybody standing behind them, and people forcing people to just leave. It it's
Yeah,
almost as if they have some form of social awareness disorder, where they don't know that they're being
yeah,
annoying.
and I almost thought, wait a second, there's a little nugget of humor to be had here. Because so basically, what happens is they go from club to club and they end up at the Roxbury, their ultimate goal. They try to get in, they can't. Michael Clark Duncan's the bouncer, and he's basically laughing at them. You're not going to get in. And they even have this other tagline where they both give their name. They both give their full name. He says, "Oh, are you brothers?" And they go, "No." Yes, and then they high five, and that's a
That's not
joke.
even part of the sketch. They just added that.
Yeah, and then like they do this about 3 or 4 times, and it's that. I'm sorry, did I miss the humor in this? I know it's supposed to be a joke because it's recurring, but it's not. So they have to go in line, a very very long line, and we see. It's almost like a montage. They're telling this anecdote, then they cut to a different part of the line with different people, and then they tell the joke, and then they tell the, and each time the people roll their eyes, and they start walking away, and I'm thinking, okay, this will be played for humor. This is how they cut up in line and get into the club. No, they get up to the front of the line, club's closed. It's like so nothing. This was all for. I had to hear this story 8 times for no reason.
You're right. That would have been a way better thing to do.
It's like, dude, it worked. We're in. Something like that. But no, there's no payoff. It's just annoyance. And then it says, title card comes up the next morning. I was like, wait a second. Already the movie's a lie because this says a night at the Roxbury.
Right.
So it's not. Title's a lie. Then we get a visit into their home life. Dan Hedaya is their father, and I love this guy. He's hilarious in anything he's in. He was Nick from Cheers.
Yes.
And was fantastic in that role. He's usually very comedic. He's a very brash and acerbic father from any teen movie you've seen him in. He's great in that role. And he's
Clueless. Wasn't he the dad in Clueless?
Yes. This is your doing? It's just he doesn't deliver comedy, but he's got great comedic timing when he does it. It's amazing to see him work. He's about the only highlight in this film for me. That and Richard Grieco.
Richard Grieco is actually pretty good, pretty funny at this stuff. I just don't want to be sued.
He kind of played it right, I think. I give him some credit for that. So they wake up, they share a room together. There's a very much feel of a Step Brothers vibe going on here. I wonder if that might have been a genesis of that film, an actual funny film.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing too. It's like they created this. It's an almost inappropriate relationship between the two brothers. It's like they never grew up. They're clearly in their 20s, and they never grew up and were never forced to move out. So it's just a lazy creation of characters that you could have done something better with as you sat down and thought about it for half a second.
Yes, and they come downstairs, and Lonnie Anderson is their mother, wearing a décolletage, and she is a complete airhead, vacuous bimbo, and I don't know why, because she doesn't lend much to this. She's just set dressing. When she was on WKRP, the whole thing was, damn, she's stunning, but she was one of the smarter people at that radio station. That's what really sold the character. Here it's just, get in front of the camera, Miss Anderson, and then say your hiccup lines, and we'll just make fun of your appearance. She got a brand new chin. The neighbors are coming over to take a look at it. That's about the extent of her contribution to the movie.
This was her last movie ever. She hasn't done anything since 1998. Yeah, they broke Lonnie Anderson. That's how much they hate these people that made this film. You ruined her from the Hollywood forever.
Yeah, I think I'm done, guys. This is it. I don't need to do any more. If this is the high water mark of my career going forward, I'm done.
You want to know something else interesting? Lonnie Anderson has never done a nude scene.
Doesn't have to, does she?
No, and that to me is incredible. Because when you play that type of vapid blonde, especially back in the 70s and 80s, back where they expected you to get topless for most of your thing, you had the goods, they wanted to see them. And for her to have a writer written in that said that she didn't need to, and be able to pull that off for a fairly successful Hollywood career, and still never get them puppies out, that's impressive, respectful even.
I tip my hat to her. In Emilio Estevez fashion.
Emilio!
So they wake up in the morning and Dan Hedaya comes in. You got to come and work in the store now. And they're like, no, Dad, we have like a dream to open our own nightclub and stuff. We can't work in the store. You're working in the store. Get there in 20 minutes. And they show up 90 minutes later. Nothing they do is worthwhile. Nothing they do is helpful. I want to punch these two.
Repeatedly in the throat.
Especially Catan. He gets there and doesn't want to work, doesn't want to do the job, doesn't want to help customers, doesn't want to ring up their purchases, gets a credit card from someone. And this scene with the guy in the credit card, do you know what this is? He's like, move your thumb. Oh, okay, yeah, I have to get this approved. He hasn't swiped, done anything, but he's got a side piece that he calls all the time.
Operator 238.
What does he call her? The credit?
Yeah, credit approver. Now, so this was a thing back in the 90s, or 90s and 2000s, back before the internet existed to the point where it was helpful. This is back when MSN and AOL, those were the kind of things that were going down. You weren't really using the internet for purchases and checking that stuff. So if you had a credit card that wouldn't go through, like you couldn't get it to swipe or you couldn't get it to like read or give information back to you, you'd have to call a number. Like the stores had this number and you would call them. You could get check approval, you could get credit card approval, and they would run it on whoever you would talk to, and they would say, yeah, this is good, you can go ahead and run it. And you're like, okay, and then you would run it, and that's how it was. I don't know if you ever called specific operators, because I remember working at Best Buy, we would just call a random number. There's like a number printed on the desk. That's how we got them. That was a real thing. Well,
they also developed card scanner where you just swipe it, you punch in the store code, and it would tell you approved or declined and done. And all these operators were out of business.
Yeah, I don't think it's a thing anymore.
No, everything's online and automated now. You can get instant. Although I would say this, my wife has had her card compromised repeatedly.
Oh, wow.
It's like, maybe we should go back to this. But he calls this girl up. She's the credit vixen, and he flirts incessantly with her when he calls. Never met her, has no idea what she looks like. And you're saying, where the hell is this going? This has to have some kind of payback at the end. And it does. But this felt like they wrote backwards. Like at the end of the movie, they were going to get their women finally. And it was going to be this girl like, whoa, how's he meet her? She can't be one of the club people. She got to be something different. So they work back and it's like, how about this girl on the phone? Every time he rings somebody up, he has to call her to get approval. How about that? It makes no damn sense.
Does she work 24 hours a day? Because he calls her during the day, like in the morning time, and then he calls her again at night while they're partying that one time buying all the Whippet cans.
Yeah, which is like 12 o'clock at night. Actually, probably later because I think the club closed and then they went out. Yeah, so 3 in the morning.
And just for a quick second, can we ask or address why they kept putting up time stamps and location stamps at random various locations, and then they just stopped doing it? LA Freeway 6:02 in the
LA Freeway 6:02 p.m.
Yeah, nightclub 1026. Roxbury, 2:33 in the morning. Like, and they do it like throughout the first 2 acts of the film. They do it a bunch, and then the whole third act, they stop doing that entire thing. Like it's like they either forgot that they did it, or decided that it was no longer worth doing, or that it wasn't adding to the film, but didn't go back and remove the rest of them.
Well, this is what I'm thinking. Is they were probably doing that to establish the night in the title. And then realized, oh crap, we can't do this because all this stuff takes place over a span of a week or so. So they just dropped it entirely.
None of it happens at night.
But we get to this flower store pissed me off so much I can't even state. Their dad, it almost feels like they're Beverly Hills because they're panning down the street and you see just nothing but high-end stores. Gucci, Chanel, And then they get around the corner and here's his dad's silk flower shop in Beverly Hills.
Yeah, Greek. And it was Greek. Were they Greek? Is Metabo a Greek name? Or Baruti or
Well,
whatever?
no. They said it was the grandparents came in from where? It
Yemen.
Was it Yemen?
Yeah, Yemen. That's what it was. It was Yemen.
Aren't they terrorists today? I think there's upheaval going on in that area somewhere. But this flower store they work at, it's like their dad's empire, and the two of them do nothing but crap on the place. Like I don't even know what Will Ferrell does there. Chris Kattan just falls over stuff. He's behind the register and the phone, everything. He trips on cords and all the machinery falls on the floor in comedic fashion and such. Nothing's funny. What are you doing? And then they have to go and load the truck, and Will Ferrell's carefully putting stuff in, and Chris Kattan's throwing it in like it's a baseball. Flower arrangements. Like, I'm sorry. What am I doing here? Why am I here? And then next door is a lamp emporium where everybody in Beverly Hills goes to buy their light fixtures, I guess. And Emily is the owner's daughter, played by Molly Shannon, who, for reasons that nobody can explain, has the hots for Steve Butabi. That's Will Ferrell. And understandably hates Doug Butabi, who's Chris Kattan. But she is a dichotomy in her over. So whenever she sees Will Ferrell, it's like, "Hi, how you doing? Oh my gosh, it's so nice. We should go to the beach sometimes." Shut up, Doug. And I'm at a loss here. What am I supposed to do with her?
And it doesn't excuse me, it doesn't make any sense on what's going on between them two characters. He clearly has zero interest in her. Kattan finds her to be annoying. She finds Kattan to be an a-hole. And Steve doesn't want anything to do with any of it.
So yeah, Will Ferrell is about as apathetic as you could possibly. He's like, "Okay, Emily, whatever. Yeah, okay, we can do that or not. I have to go now." That's like his go-to line with her. "Yeah, I'm done, so I'm going to go over here." But she is fixated on him.
Unhealthily so.
I don't know what to do with this information. It's like...
And how old is she in this film? She says she's home from college.
Yeah, she says she's in college, but she looks more like a professor.
She looks like she's in her 30s.
Yeah.
But truthfully, Molly Shannon has always looked mature.
Well, that's the thing. She looks the same today than she did when she was on the show.
34 in this movie.
And yeah, they said, so what do you do in college? It's like, college is just orgies and Cliff Notes.
She's one of my favorite characters. She's one of my favorite actresses from SNL. I find her to be very, very, very funny. And they mistreat her in this film to an unforgivable degree.
Really given not much to do. Very, very over the top, while at the same time not giving anything to do, which is odd. So we see this play out, and I suppose this is what qualifies as a plot. On the sidewalk, the fathers and the kids are all out there, and we learn that the plan is for Emily and Steve to get married so that the two businesses can then knock down the wall between them and merge into a fake plant, real lamp store.
Like plants and lamps. He said at the dinner, he says it's going to be called Lamps and Plants. He goes, no, Plants and Lamps. That flows better.
It makes more sense.
Plants and Lamps.
And I'm left thinking, because it's basically what Dan Hedaya says is like, you see that right there? That wall. It's coming down. You two get married, and we can combine the stores. You can do that now. I mean,
you could have had again, this is a situation where they could have had these characters as background characters into a different part of the story and not the main focus of the film. And I think it probably works better.
Yeah, and if you have two adult business owners that want to merge their businesses, it is not predicated on children getting married to do so. You could have done this years ago if you wanted.
No, yeah, you could do it right now.
I mean, they make it sound like this whole business arrangement is hinging on them getting married. Why? I don't get it. I mean, it's not like we see her doing anything unique or magnificent in the lamp store. Steve's an absolute zero on the business side of things. So what is going on?
And Steve seems to be the most interested in the business itself.
Well, at least he feels some level of obligation, right? He's like, well, we have to get back and fix the stock room at
The
least.
stock group. What about the stock group? Well, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's just worth doing. I'm just having an
Doug,
existential
though,
crisis.
is like as antagonistic as possible about any of this. Screw that! We're opening a nightclub. Yeah, you don't have a car. You have no money. You got no business acumen. You have nothing. How are you opening a nightclub?
You can't even get into nightclubs. The whole and they build this thing up with Steve wanting to showing some sort of interest in his dad's business, and they don't pay it off. Just at the drop of a hat, he goes right back to what his brother wants him to do. Like there's probably a deeper story that could have been written here in a much more interesting and in-depth way of Steve feeling. Steve could have been the main focus and having a feeling, an obligation to everybody around him, right? There's like a psychological portion to this that you could have explored and made this a higher level comedy, but they go surface level or less the whole time. And so interesting portions of the character that they hint at, they never actually fully enjoy, so we don't get to really explore it. It's dumb. This movie's dumb, Brad.
They're two nightclub guys, so everything has to center on the nightclub. That they
How bad
cannot
was
get
this
in.
film? You know how bad this film was? It ruined Lonnie Anderson, and it destroyed Will Ferrell and Chris Kattan's long-term relationship. You know these guys stopped talking to each other after this movie and have not communicated since.
I was not aware of this soap opera detail.
Right?
No.
There's a story that right after this movie released, or they finished filming it, Will Ferrell, Chris Kattan was like texting him or calling him, and Ferrell eventually, I guess, came back and said, "Hey, I got all your messages, but I don't want to talk to you anymore." And they haven't worked on a project or talked to each other since. It just, right? I mean, we're talking about they created the characters together, and this movie ruined them. It has something to do with
Wow.
Chris Kattan was in a relationship with one of the producers. It has something to do with that.
Huh.
Yeah, like what's her name? Amy something another.
No, not Amy Heckerling.
Heckerling. Yeah.
Oh no, really?
Yeah. So Kattan
She's
and
like a big
Heckerling
name, though. She's like a big comedic director.
Yeah. Kattan and Heckerling were in some sort of relationship.
Which just cracks me up all the more because Chris Kattan's career highlight has been Corky Romano. Talk about a movie we need to do someday.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Would you like to buy some cookies? That's amazing. I mean,
that's what happened in '98. But then, like in 2019, back when the Me Too movement was starting to get around, and it was okay for guys to start saying stuff about Me Too, you know, with Terry Crews and a couple of the other guys talking about how they were treated and sexually aggressed on. Kattan came out and accused Heckerling of sexually coercing him on multiple occasions during the filming of A Night at the Roxbury. And that Lorne Michaels told him he had to have sex with Heckerling in order to keep her attached as director of Clueless.
Wow.
Like, bro, it gets deep wild. And now with all this stuff with P. Diddy coming out, I mean, it's not going to surprise me to see that if some of these guys didn't go to some of these parties.
Oh no, there's already talk of that stuff going on. I think it was last night. I saw one. It was like Leo DiCaprio and a couple other named people were at one of them.
Kevin Hart.
I mean, this is going to be the rap version of the Epstein fly list.
Now, just like Epstein, there were people at this party that had zero idea what was going down. So there's some people at this party that were just at a party. But there are a lot of people going to be at this party who knew exactly what was happening.
Well, I mean, if it's Leo DiCaprio and his famed history of dumping women after they turn 25, I'm pretty certain where he's going to fall on that spectrum.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Where's my box of popcorn? Let's just watch how this thing unfolds.
But I mean, this backstory is far, far more interesting than anything that takes place in this film.
Yeah, this is
I'm
true.
probably going to have to do more research going forward. Wow. Well, here's a vague way of, I guess, forwarding a plot. So, like, Doug is as obstinate as it gets with Dad, to the point of yelling at him, "Screw yeah, we're opening a nightclub, right?" And Dad's like, "Well, okay, no more car, no more cell phones." And then I suppose this is a joke. They're outside arguing with each other over what they're going to do, and then Lonnie Anderson, mom, comes out with 2 brick phones. Because those are big and clunky, and nobody uses them anymore, and it's embarrassing, you see. Comedy, Paul.
And then they never show the phones again.
Oh, no, there's one scene in the van where he's calling the page of the one girl they managed to hook up with later. And then he just throws it in the back of the van because that's what Chris Kattan does. He just throws stuff. Physical humor.
I will say when they're first talking to Molly Shannon's character outside the lamp store, when she sees him and he's throwing plants against the door, trying to load him up in the van. I will say I legitimately laughed because that was a well-timed throw for everything. They're just standing there talking calmly, and he's throwing plants against the van wall. Steve is gently setting these fake plants in. You just see one come whizzing by and slam into the back of the car. I admit I laughed out loud openly on that.
This is what we had to attach to for mirth in this comedy film from Saturday Night Live.
Well, see, that's a good portion of the film. That's good comedy. It's good timing. It's a great comedic contrast of what's actually going down around them, and then do something completely off the wall. But it's just coming from off screen. You're just seeing these things come through.
It's lost their way. It's played well, but this is the thing. The entire movie is just like throwing spaghetti. Occasionally, something's going to stick to the wall, right?
Yeah, true.
They come up with something. There was one other thing a little bit coming up that maybe amused me too, but it's literally me looking for it. So now they're desperate, no car, no phone, and they're trying to get into the Roxbury. They use Dad's van. They're driving this at night. So they try once again to get into the Roxbury. Can't get in. They try to bribe the bouncer with $7
and 26 cents.
And he's like, yeah, back of the line. And they said, you know what? We need more money.
Maybe you need to bring my friend George Washington to the party, and my other friend George Washington to the party.
So forced.
But I laugh. There's certain scenes made me laugh because there were those I could see as sketches. I could see those pieces of it as sketches in the show. That part is funny. I like that kind of humor. That part got me going. But the rest of it's dumb.
Well, they're looking for an ATM at this point because they realize they need more money to bribe the guy. So they keep lurching the van forward. There's an ATM. No, that's Chinese food. There's an ATM. No, that's a flower shop. There's an ATM. And while doing so, Richard Grieco rear ends the van. And at this point, I can kind of see this now. They're okay. Now I know how they're getting in the club. So Richard comes out. He tells his date, I can't call the cops because this is an illegal race car.
That's so stupid.
And so, he goes up to the guys and he's looking to maybe bribe them or something, give them a crap ton of money. And they're just like, oh, it's Richard Creek. What's up? Hey, Richard. Hey, what's going on?
Emilio!
It's like, oh, we're going to the Roxbury too. Hope we can get in there. And he's like, I can get you in Roxbury. And now this is how he avoids calling the cops. And this is how the guys get into the nightclub. It works out well. So there was one small point of amusement. They pull up, they get inside, and the guys walk in and they're like, wow, this place. Can you believe it? We're here. Look how magnificent. And Grieco's like, dude, it's the coat room. Club's over there. Okay. All right. I can get you in there. I'm trying film. I'm trying to enjoy you.
I'm trying.
And they get in. Grieco's kind of like, I got to hang with these guys, I guess. And they meet the owner of the place.
Zadir.
This is Chaz Palminteri, great actor. What the hell's he doing in this movie? I have no idea what he's doing in this movie. But he plays Benny, the club owner, who, for reasons that I have no idea, constantly turns to people around him and say, did you grab my ass?
And one guy says, what did he say? I just called him. Dewey calls him Colin Quinn. Says, I just talked to him. He's in the Caymans. There's no way he could have grabbed your ass.
I don't understand this, though. Like, guys are across the table. He's talking to him, and in mid-sentence, like, did you grab my ass? And it's like, no, I'm sitting over here. But this doesn't go anywhere. Nothing happens with this line. It doesn't explain anything, lead to anything. Like another time he goes to Dewey. He's like, did you grab my ass? He's like, no, sir. I'm clearly across on the other side of the room. I did not grab your ass. What do we do with this? I don't. This is his character trait, though. So they bring him in. Richard Grieco introduces him to Benny, who's a deeply successful businessman. He's got an office building. He owns multiple nightclubs. And he loves Steve and Doug Butabi.
For no reason.
Why? They haven't done anything. They haven't exhibited anything. But I love these guys. Hey, I love them. You guys are awesome. Did you grab my ass? Okay, so now they're in, I guess, with him. While talking with the club owner, two money-grubbing skanks are at the bar trying to figure out what rich guys they can glom onto. They see Steve and Doug, two guys who clearly would not sit with the owner of the hottest nightclub in California unless they were rich and successful. Ergo, the two skanks start hitting on Steve and Doug. Hardcore. Like, to the extent of just shut the hell up and screw me already. I mean, this is basically their modus operandi for landing a whale. And they're hitting on him, and the guys can't believe it. It's like, hey, what's up? What's up? Hey, this is working. Hey, I got numbers. Hey. And they later end up at Benny's home.
You can't just bypass that dance scene.
I tried to.
Where they're just ridiculously over the top with dancing. Like, they're dancing their normal, grindy, cringy, rapey way. Mm-hmm. And the girls are putting up with it because they think these guys got money. And then they start dancing the same way and mimicking them. And there's a whole butt grabbing scene, and Zadir's like, that's some good ass grabbing there. You're like, what?
I tried to avoid this.
There's a dance number in this movie.
And it closes with one, too. But we're supposed to find this amusing. I guess this is a callback to the skit, but it's really just, I think Chris Kattan more than anything else ad-libbing physical humor, flailing around and making gyrations in comedic fashion. And the girls are like, oh, he's rich. I better do the same thing. My pride and my shame are completely disregarded as a result. And there they are moving in spastic fashion. But then they get in Zadir's limo. They have to stop at a convenience store to pick up 24 bottles of whipped cream for some reason.
Because they make a comment that he's like, I like whipped cream. They're like, yeah, we like it too, but you got to use the one out of the can but the nozzle, you got to eat it right out of the nozzle, but you got to turn it upside down so that the gas comes out first or something. He goes, are you talking about doing whippets? And he's like, no, maybe. And they go and just stop and pick up a dozen cans of whippet, which leads to the scene where he says, I had sex with your mom last night. He goes, yeah, I had sex with your dad. He goes, what? I mean, your sister. Like, it's this weird homophobic gay joke tossed in there.
Yeah, I mean, Colin Quinn is given absolutely nothing to do in this.
No.
He's I guess Zadir's right-hand guy, but everything is insufferable to him. You could read it on its face. I don't even think he likes Zadir. So he's putting up with these two assholes in his limo, takes them over to the house, and they keep trying to pitch this club idea to Zadir. Chris Kattan's idea is this. What if we had a club where everybody waiting outside was in a nightclub scene and everybody inside the club was in a street scene? You flip the entire concept. I don't know why anybody would want to go into that club if you could stay outside for free and enjoy the club atmosphere.
But that's the thing is that's the outside club. The inside club is the streets, so that's even better than the outside club. So now you're paying people to be in both parts of the club. I think that's just called a lanai.
I think it's called a desperate move, but okay, I'll go with you.
I think it's a terrible idea for a club. It's nobody's going to do it because as soon as it rains in downtown Los Angeles, now what are you going to do? Well, you just got everything outside, inside wet.
Your sofas are completely soaked. Yes, let's lounge on those.
I mean, it's a lackluster, half-baked idea for this film, and it falls in place with everything else that the film has produced up to this point. Half-baked comedy.
Yeah, so they try pitching him at the party, and Zadir's like, "Yeah, come on, boys, we'll talk business tomorrow. Let's enjoy ourselves." So they both pair off. They go in rooms with the girls.
They're at a Diddy party.
And
that's what this was. Was this not a Diddy party?
If you're doing whippets, it's going to lead to that. You know it.
Did you see all the baby oil?
Gallons of lube. Gallons. Did you see the topless girl at the pool?
I
saw her back.
No. That's a character that is actually listed in the film as topless girl, but she's not topless, right? It's just a back shot.
Okay.
There's an actual topless girl in the movie during that scene, and she's in the background, and she's sitting with her legs in the pool talking to other people around her, and everybody else is fully clothed. So the rumor is, I guess speculation, is that this character took her top off during the filming, but nobody noticed because it was at night, and nobody noticed during the editing of the film, so it made it into a PG-13 cut of the film. But it wasn't supposed to be there. And nobody realized that that's what had happened until it was pointed out in the theatrical cut. That's how you know nobody watched this movie, because the people editing weren't even paying attention.
Sounds almost like the guy in the crowd scene at Teen Wolf, where he dropped his pants and waved his wedding tackle while they were all cheering, and nobody noticed it until it hit the theaters. Oh yeah, you haven't heard that?
No.
Yeah, it's like I think in the final game where he hits the winning shot and all that, and it's like a crane shot from over the stands, and everybody's standing up and cheering, and guy just drops trow in the middle of it all. No reason. Like one of the extras just is like, "Yeah, I'm going to air it out."
That can't be true.
I don't make these things up, Paul.
Oh my gosh, Teen Wolf Pants Down is the first thing that comes up.
Boom. There you go. I'm a cineast. Is that? I think that's what the French call it.
What is happening? How was I not know this is the thing?
Then it's not even on pay-per-view. How about that?
That's crazy.
The things you learn on Disaster.
Brad's always teaching me and educating me.
So they're in the room with the girls. The girls are basically saying, "Have me," trying to rip pants off, and Will Ferrell is just like, "Yeah, I just want to get to know you, like the real you. Like, what are you into, dogs and stuff?" And yeah. And the one thing I've found to be moderately humorous was Chris Kattan and his date. She's basically macking all over him, trying to get him naked. And he keeps spitting out one-liners. And she finally looks at him and says, "Okay, you don't use pickup lines anymore."
Yeah, we're past the pickup line stage.
But he's just, I guess, so programmed. That's the only way he can communicate is in hard pickup lines. Like, "Hey, is that me in your pocket? Because I want to get in your pants." She's like, "Yeah, I'm getting naked now." Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm starting to. There's a glimmer of humor coming through here, but they didn't even work that. And then the timestamp comes up. 47 seconds later, and then the two of them meet in a hallway, and they're almost high five and say, "Did you? Yes, did you? I so did, and we did the thing. Yes, ha!" And then they go back in the room. Comedy, folks. But then the next day, they're now in love. They are just my girlfriend. We have a relationship. Things are happening. He's got her number, and the girls find out they actually just drive a flower van. They have no life. "I hate you. Don't call me anymore. Get out of my life." So now, I suppose this is drama. Doug is starting to get distraught. They try to go to Zadir because they don't have his number. They never exchange contact information. Zadir, though, desperately wants to talk to them. They want to desperately talk to him. And Colin Quinn is like, "Nah, not these assholes." But they go to the office building where he's by the receptionist. "Hey, Zadir, what's up?" He's in an office, and then Colin Quinn just calls security, hauls them out. Meanwhile, Zadir's in the office saying, "Hey, you ever find those guys from last night? We got to talk." How does Colin Quinn have a job? I mean, he's working against the best interest of his boss. Now, I mean, granted, maybe tossing these two assholes out is not a bad idea, but nonetheless, the boss wants to talk to him. He's like, "Yeah, we're still looking for him, boss. Can't find him. Don't know what's up. Can't find him." So I'm baffled as how he operates, but from this point on, we don't really see Colin Quinn anymore, so it doesn't really matter.
And I don't think he cares that we can't see Colin Quinn anymore.
It's just every scene that he's in, you could just get the sense, and he's like, "Can we just end this? Are we done filming yet? Is the scene over? Am I finished?" That's kind of the vibe I got from him. So they get kicked out of the office building. They lose the girlfriends. Dad's mad at him. It's one of those classic scenes where everything bad happens at the same time on the same day. And then the two of them fight, sort of. They argue in the van. And then Chris Kattan moves out to go live in the pool house. And I'm told I'm supposed to care. Big reveal, I don't. I don't care. Don't care.
Don't care.
Go live in the pool house. Go. Meanwhile, the idea now is that Steve and Emily will get married because, of course, they will. And so they start having sex. They start having sex in the pool in the middle of the day where Doug can see them from his window, and ostensibly so can Mom and Dad and the neighbors. But this apparently twists the knife to Doug to see them in full aquatic coitus.
But and Steve doesn't like her, right? He's only like given into her because he's on the outs with his brother.
Pretty much, and then the sex, because once it's established that they're going to get married, she's like all about business, literally. Like they're reading business manuals in bed.
Oh yeah, and they have sex where she's like talking about ottomans and wall colors.
Well,
and he's like, "You're acting like we're married." She goes, "Oh, we're going to get married." He's like, "What? No."
But then she'll crawl under the sheets and giving him oral pleasure, and he's like, okay, good idea. And then like a wedding is just happening. Okay, huh? I said, I'll go along with it if this movie ends soon. Thankfully it will. So Doug finds out about the wedding. There's also this fitness trainer that's their good friend for some reason that fits into all this but doesn't, because nothing happens really.
And I've seen that dude before, and I can't place him where I've seen him.
Oh, Lachlan Monroe, he's been in a crap ton of stuff. He's like a big character actor. Been in a lot of things.
He's actually a better character in this movie than... Was he in a hockey film?
I feel like Which one? I'm going to say I don't think so, only because I'm well versed in hockey movies. He was in the one, what was that college movie where the guy was going to flunk out, but if your roommate dies, you automatically pass. So they were trying to get he was playing like a wild out of his mind party animal that figured he would kill himself accidentally. That was the plot of the movie. I forget what it.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it was just, once they found out about it, he's like, "You're gonna flunk out." It's like, "Yeah, but there's a stipulation that if your roommate dies, they pass you." And he's like, "Oh, well, we got to take him up on the roof and have a party and have him swing on the balcony, that kind of thing. See if he ends up killing himself accidentally."
Oh,
comedy.
Yes. Oh, what was that called? I know what you're talking about. Oh, goodness gracious.
I'll see if I can noodle it.
It'll come to me. It'll come up to me later.
So they, this fitness trainer like just pops up on occasion. They go to see him at the gym, and then after Doug and Steve have their breakup, is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, let's fall it out.
He goes clubbing with him, and the fitness trainer is actually in love with Emily, but can't say so or something. It's kind of painful. I'm really trying to put together. There's so little plot here that I'm trying to develop this into something listenable, and it's damn difficult.
It's weird because they tried to write this movie like a standard Hollywood film, right? Characters, put them in a situation, give them some conflict, and then you resolve the conflict at the end to make everything seem better. But it didn't need any of that. It didn't need conflict for them two guys falling out. Like the whole point is that these guys don't get tired of each other. Like they shouldn't get tired of each other. They live together and wear the same silk boxers constantly, right? They're over the top, kind of ridiculous, and the whole thing that holds them together is their blood is thicker than, Roxbury water. But the movie didn't need that. Like even if you were to write everything else about this film the way they did, and you're determined to create a backstory for two characters that don't need it. You don't need to split them up because the whole point of liking the characters is that they do everything together. You don't need to throw a love interest in there that's some sort of weird stalkerish kind of situation. You don't
But
need you don't need them to separate and have this weird come together. You don't need Chris Kattan's dad coming at him and saying I don't support him for anything and calling him a loser and a dummy. Like you don't that none of that's necessary for the story you've created.
yeah, plus we already know this. It's rather self-evident. I don't need him berating him, but this is supposed to, I don't know, lend some kind of heft or some kind of drama. Dead Man on Campus.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Much better one. But then it's not saying much. So the wedding is about to take place, and it's in the backyard of the home because of course it is. Where else would you have it? And they're going through the ceremony. Doug comes out on the balcony of the pool house, radio over his head playing What Is Love, the incessant dance track that is their theme song and infects our ears the entire movie. At which point Steve comes to the realization that he doesn't really want to get married after all. He wants to hang out with his brother. I guess. And then that movie trope that always annoys the living hell out of me, when a wedding goes sour on camera, somebody else on screen needs to use the ceremony for their marriage. So, Paul.
You have your hello, Brad. Oh, Brad, I made myself laugh.
That song is going to haunt me for a good week, I'm sure.
I might send it to you randomly. I'm going to just send you it. It's going to be our new Rick Roll. That's between you and me. That's going to be our Rick Roll.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to wake up with that in my head a couple days this weekend. But
I might just send you a picture of me, just a video of me bobbing my head along. We should do that. We should do that and stitch together and send it to Aggie of just us bobbing our heads.
Find an AI generator.
I have one. I may
have shark skin suit.
I may or may not have purchased an app.
Oh, there you go.
To send my daughter videos or pictures of otters working on airplanes.
Well, Steve says, screw it, I'm not going to get married. And then the gym rat says, well, I actually love Emily. We're going to get married. She agrees to this. A guy she has not spoken to the entire film. She's going to get married to him. I mean, basically, he has a one sentence pickup line is like, well, I'm very dedicated. I'm very, I pay attention to my glutes and I get all this and I'm very disciplined. And she's like, wow, okay, let's do this. And they do. So, another moderately amusing point was Richard Grieco and their dad is sitting together having a deep conversation. I thought this was kind of funny. Because Grieco is actually consoling. He's like, so you see Doug as just wildly independent and stubborn and driven, and isn't that really a reflection of yourself? And isn't that who you are really mad at? And I'm listening to Grieco saying this. I was like, this is funny. This works.
Doesn't that remind you of somebody?
Who are you really mad at? Is it him or the man in the mirror? Just that kind of crap. It's like, this is all right. This is subtle. This works. It's not Chris Kattan acting like a spastic orangutan on nose candy.
A spastic orangutan on nose candy.
Mm-hmm. This was what works on me, okay? You draw me in and then, slide something under the door. That's kind of funny. It's like, all right, this is good. I don't need to look through the peephole and watching somebody lose their mind like a Tasmanian devil in the hallway of the hotel I just rented. Get the hell out of here, call security. That's where I'm at now. So the Butabis reconcile, I guess you could say. Doug moves back in. You're right. This is really uncomfortable to talk about their relationship. And they're driving along. I guess they're going back to the Roxbury, but then they drive by a new nightclub that has opened up. There's tables and sofas, stand-up bars. All of this is outside.
That's your idea.
Dude,
I know.
that looks just like your nightclub idea. Right there, like somebody stole it. So they go to check it out, and they pass the line. They're like, "Yeah, it's us. We're the Butabi brothers." It's like, "Wait, you're brothers? No. Wait, are we on? You're on the list." It's like, "Wait, what?" They go inside. Turns out Zadir made the nightclub idea that they had pitched to him, and now they're partners. That's how this works.
Like you couldn't find them anywhere?
Never found him, never talked to him, never hashed out this idea. Just he's like, all right, I'm going to open up a nightclub, and they have 50%. You know, like in real life, because that's what happens in business deals.
Hey, you guys own this place. Yeah, let's make some decisions. And no one's ever seen them. But yet people are walking up and asking them to sign paperwork and approve things.
Yeah. They walked in this place like, wow, look at this. There's street signs. There's Mr. Butabi, I need you to sign an approval right here. It's like, okay, sure, approved. There you go. And like the staff knows who they are. You're right. They're like, that's Mr. Butabi. Hey, that's the Butabi brothers. They're our owners. Hey, that's what is it? Like everybody get a photograph of them on training day or something. It's like when these guys walk in, treat them like gold.
Yeah, they're this is their idea. They're part owners. No, dude's not saying that.
So yeah, the reward I guess for their idea is they're part owners now. So they go to the bar and they're getting drinks. While they're talking, Doug hears a familiar voice over his shoulder.
Credit Vixen, is that you?
He turns around slowly, as does she, and he's like, I know that voice. Yes, he meets up with the credit vixen that they mysteriously only talked and you know, well, what do you think? Am I good looking? Well, what do you think? Am I good looking? And they pair off to go dancing. And the entire nightclub starts dancing just like the two jackasses on the dance floor, shaking their heads. And mercifully, our movie ends here.
Yeah, it just kind of stops in it.
It's just, wow, camera pans back, credits. And there I am thinking, thank God, can I get out of here without paying my bill? But this is, man, yeah. I had going into this venture, I first saw this, of course, years and years ago.
I saw it in theaters.
When it was, I think I saw it when it first came on disc. I remember, did you ever see the DVD box for this movie? It was like as complex as it gets. It like refractive 3D images, and it had, I think, glitter outlined on the box itself. I mean, just the DVD box was massive. It was like, you spent more money on this than you did the damn script. I ain't buying your movie. I'm renting it for $2 and laughing at you assholes for making it.
Score.
But yeah, when I first saw this, I was like, there's no way this movie's going to be good. And then I watched it. It was like, this is somehow worse than I even expected. It is amazing. There's a serious cast. There's a lot of named people in this thing. And this is what you came up with? What the hell are you doing? But it's I would say I recommend this just to marvel at what a cluster mess this is. Now, I know comedy is subjective, and there could be people out there saying, "Oh no, this is a funny movie." Could be.
I'm honestly surprised they didn't try to make a Stefan film.
I'm glad they didn't, because I found that one to be insufferable.
I mean, that's good in small pieces, but like these two characters should have connected.
But yeah, and Stefan wasn't even a segment. That just came out during the newscast.
It's just a character in the newscast. What they should have done, SNL, if they were smart, and they're not, but if they were, they would create a movie called Cameo. That's just the name of the film. It's just called Cameo. And now they bring in Herb Welch and Debbie Downer. They'll bring in the church lady and Matt Foley's no longer with us. But bring in all the great characters from the way back in the day. Hans and Franz, throw them bad boys up in there. And it's just bring in a whole bunch of different cameos. How about the unfrozen caveman lawyer?
Yeah.
Bring him up in there. The Boston teens show up. See, like that could be funny. You bring in all the great characters from the SNL's ever produced, for the characters from the people playing them that are still alive, and you just throw them in. You have some dude on a random journey through New York City or across the United States, and every time he gets to a location, there is a character from an SNL film. Maybe he's in Illinois and he goes into the church, and there's this church lady, and he's talking to Dana Carvey as the church lady. It's just something random, and you just pull him all the way through until he gets to California and meets the Californians. I might write that movie.
This is that has potential. This movie did not, but I do say it's something you need to behold. You need to actually sit through this and see what they claim to be a motion picture that they expected people to go see. This was not a good film. Now somehow this made $30 million on a $17 million budget. I'm guessing that's global. I'm still guessing they lost money on this though, because that would be a net return of about 13 to 14 for the studio. No, this was a mess.
Yeah, there's no way this movie made money.
None at all. And it's one of the few times, this is what the business side of things that interests me. This is SNL Studios. This is one of their like Broadway Videos, the production company for them.
Right.
Michaels. And SNL Studios is like their motion picture division of such. They had a partnership with Paramount for these kind of movies. And then NBC got bought out by Universal. They had to alter the contract as a result.
Yeah, I had to watch this on Max and not Peacock, which I thought was interesting. It's not available. None of the SNL films are available on Peacock, which is an NBC affiliate. It's related to NBC, and this is an NBC show or a movie based on an NBC show. But you can only watch it on Paramount. So I guess that explains. Paramount and Max are together, so that makes sense based on what you're saying.
Well, have they officially partnered, or is it more of a add-on subscription you can get? Because I know Paramount.
It might be an add-on.
I have to try. They're going through all kinds of nonsense. They were just laying off people from CBS News the other day. It's how bad things are going for Paramount right now, even with the merger. So I would think they're probably going to start selling off their properties to other streaming services, and that would make sense. But I was fortunate enough that I have this movie already downloaded. So,
you know what's sad is that had we waited an extra couple of weeks, we could have done this show on the day it was released, on October 16th, Columbus Day.
Well,
oh my gosh, it was only in theaters for 17 days.
I believe it. Yep. Yeah, this didn't go well for anybody. Didn't go far.
It was $3 million.
Wow. Yeah. So much of that 30 had to be international. Jeez.
Oh my gosh,
Well,
they got beat by the animal.
that's just sad and pathetic.
The
Wow.
animal made more money than this movie, and the animal
Wow.
is terrible.
Well, that is Night at the Roxbury. As I said, I will encourage you to see it just to behold what a fiasco this is. This is unfunny, unclever, unentertaining. You name it, it's there. But therefore, it needs to be seen.
Got a great soundtrack, though.
I hate
I'm holding my phone over my head like Chris Kattan does his boombox. I'm gonna send that to you randomly throughout the day, like just throughout the week. Say, hey, check this clip out real quick. And it's gonna be that.
You're driving me to the bourbon bottle already.
You're welcome.
The sun is still up. Well then, that's gonna do it for Night at the Roxbury. So Paul, why don't you tell people where they can find more of you?
You can find me down at the club. I'm gonna go see Hootie and the Blowfish tomorrow, so I'm gonna make this a whole '90s weekend.
Look at you go.
I know. It's just me and my buddy I've known since I was 4. Neither of our wives want to attend the Hootie and the Blowfish concert, so we're going by ourselves.
Well, it's gonna be you and Darius having the night of time.
That's right.
Well done. As for myself, I'm available in a variety of places. You can come see me daily over at townhall.com. I've got my media column there called Rift from the Headlines. I'm also on the front page of Red State. And I've got a twice weekly podcast there as well called Liable Sources. And you can hear more of me on this network. Next Thursday, I'll be here with Orty Packard. He and I guide you through all of the important entertainment information on the culture shift. Tuesday evenings, I'm here with the ever-effervescent Aggie Reekin as we guide you through relaxation, sports, cocktails, culture, and more on the Cocktail Lounge. And then if you need more of me than that, let's face it, you do. If you head over to Jitter, I'm at Martini Shark. All right, 2 weeks from now, it's going to be me and Paul, and I believe we've got a Halloween prep we got to do.
Yes, we've got to find something good for Halloween.
I don't think I'm revealing too much, but just as a teaser, we have, I think it's going to be a thematic month here at KLRN.
Oh?
Going to be doing a variety of shows, all with a similar theme, kind of pointing and driving towards Halloween. So give you an idea what we're going to have on tap. We'll be looking into that ourselves. And that'll be 2 weeks right here, Thursday evening, once again, on Disasters in the Making.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.